Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today, the sun's shining, birds are chirping, everything's just going good. So I decided to come back and make a new video for you guys. And this video has been very highly requested, only like 3 people requested it, but still a lot of people have been asking me to make a follow-up video on my university tips video. So like a study tips video and like how to retain information in a short amount of time. So if you're interested in that, then this video is for you. Keep on watching. I'm not gonna make this intro too long and let's get right into the video. However, just kidding. I said I wasn't gonna make it too long, but you should know how I'm gonna structure this video so that it all kind of ties in and makes sense. So the video will be split into three major sections. So limiting distractions, effective note-taking, and effective studying. All right, now we can get into the video. Let's go. Also, I forgot to add in, just make sure that, you like the video and you subscribe as well. That really helps out a lot. So yeah, anyways, keep watching. Bye. So first, for limiting distractions, and at my university tips video, I specified not studying in your bed. I'm gonna reinforce that again in this video as well. It's so important to try not to study in your bed because, like I said in the last video, your brain associates your bed with things like sleep and like relaxation, Netflix, social media. So if you are studying in your bed, then you're more likely going to want to do those things compared to actually focusing your time on studying, which can be very distracting. Some people also find it very helpful to delete their social media, like when they have major quizzes and tests and stuff coming up. I personally don't do it because I know how to like balance social media and like school and everything else. But if you are someone who has a hard time staying away from social media, like if you go on like the Instagram app or like Twitter or whatever you use, and like it usually gives you like information on how long you're spending on the app. If it's hours, girl, you might need to delete it. You just might have to delete it. And that's okay, you can reinstall it back after once your major like assignment or quiz or exam has passed by. Another helpful tip could be as small as just putting your phone in another room when you're studying. That's why like it's best to study outside of your room, but even if you are studying in your room, just put it in another room so that you're not tempted to look at it. Because like, are you ever just studying, but then you just have this urge to look at your phone? That urge can be like destroyed basically if you just put the phone in another room, so it'll make it harder for you to want to look at your phone, if that makes sense. But of course, put your phone on ringer mode so that in case someone's calling you or like emergency, you could get up and grab it. So I find if you actually dedicate time to do the things that you actually want to do, like fun things, so like spend time with family, friends, Netflix, do your hobbies. If you actually dedicate specific time to that, then you'll more likely not want to do those things while you're studying because you kind of get that out of your system. And then when it's finally time to study, you're like, okay, like I've done what I wanted to do. Now it's time to focus on school. So make sure, you need to have fun. Like school is important, yes. Education is important, yes, but you also need to have fun and take care of yourself and do things that you want to do. So if you actually take time to do those things, then you'll be less likely to want to do them when you're supposed to be studying. And last but not least, a major distractor can be the people you live with or like your friends and family. So you really have to just like, if you have to sit them down, be like, listen, okay, I'm studying, I'm doing school, what between the hours of how long it takes for you to study, do not disturb me. If you have to do that, do it. Like, tell your man or your girl, whoever, to stop calling you, you're busy, you're studying. Tell your friends to stop harassing you, to hang out, you're busy, you're studying. Tell your family members to stop calling you to do chores, you're busy, you're studying. So yeah, just make sure the people in your life, like you let them know, like, listen, please, you need to help me. Like I'm focused on school at the moment. So let me do that, and let me do that in peace. And obviously you'll make time to spend time with them, but just not during your study time. The next important section is effective note-taking. So taking really good notes can really make a difference in spending 2 hours on a concept or 10 hours. So pay attention. So it's very important to take notes as the lecture occurs. Do not save, like, don't wait until the very end of the course to start taking your notes. Like, you need to write notes as the lecture occurs. So there's 2 circumstances, and I'm gonna tell you the 2 circumstances. So obviously with like 2020 and like everything going on, some classes may be online and some classes may be in person. So I'll tell you how you should be taking your notes for online classes and then how you should be taking your notes for in-class lectures. For in-class lectures, I found it very, very helpful. Is like most lectures or professors will give you the PowerPoints already, like before class. So just have that like downloaded onto like your computer or your iPad or whatever you're using to write notes. If you are like, some people I know like print out the PowerPoint, but that's a lot of work. So if you can, like, have it on like an electronic device. And when you're writing notes, only write down the things that the professor adds on. So like a lot of professors, like as they're going through the PowerPoint, a good professor won't just read what's on the PowerPoint. Like, you guys know how to read. So a good professor wouldn't just read things, like they'll actually add to it. So only write down the things that they are adding to that lecture per slide. And then when you go home and you're reviewing, because you should be reviewing after every lecture. So when you go home and you're reviewing the lecture, then you write down or you type out. If you write notes, that's fine. If you type notes, that's fine. Just do whatever works for you. But when you write down or type out your notes, then you type out what's on the PowerPoint and including what the professor says. So that will give you, and the thing with like writing down things on the PowerPoint, obviously don't write down everything word for word. Just write down the things that you may not understand, or like write it in language that you can understand, and then add in that professor's explanation on top of that. So it will really give you the best knowledge of that lecture. I don't know why I'm doing this dance, but you guys get what I'm trying to say. By the way, I talk with my hands a lot, so like I'm gonna be doing this, like you're just gonna have to deal with it. Sorry, I just do it. Sorry. And for online lectures, so the thing about online lectures, like, yeah, they kind of suck, but at the same time they're kind of lit, because you kind of save more time in a way, because you can write your notes out or type your notes out as the professor's talking. So you can write down, again, summarize what's on the PowerPoint, and then as the professor's talking, you write down what they're saying onto it directly. So it kind of saves you time, because you're just doing everything at once. Yeah. And another benefit is, like, if it's moving too fast, you just whoop, pause, whoop, rewind, and then just relearn it. Whereas like in-person lectures, you can't just be like, wait, professor, I didn't understand that, wait, slow down. Like, no, they just keep going. So that's another benefit for online lectures, is you can just pause, rewind, do whatever you want as you're writing notes. So it does save some time. So another tip is, don't, like, I know some people are really extra with their notes, like they do like the most. And I mean, if you want to do that, do it. But like, don't stress too much of making your notes like the prettiest thing ever. Just make sure that it's very organized and that it's legible. So obviously do take time with your notes, but like you don't have to go all out. Like with me, like I do I do colors, and like my headings are colored, and you know, I go in with like markers, and like sometimes add detail, like things like that you can do, but just don't waste too much time or stress too much on making it look pretty. But obviously make it notes that you do want to study. So like for me, I do have to put some effort into my notes, because if I don't, I'm not going to study it. Like, I'm just, ew, these are ugly, I don't want to look at them. But if you make them, you know, like semi-nice and organized and legible, then you'd actually want to look at them. So find a balance between making your notes, you know, good and presentable, but not spending too much time on it to the point where it's like, this lecture could have taken me 2 hours, but I'm here 8 hours later and like I'm only halfway through it. So this was kind of jumping off what I was saying earlier, but when you're rewriting your notes from like the PowerPoints or whatever the lecture your professor gives you, do not write, try not to, sometimes it's hard, but try not to write every single like detail that they put, because you're not really learning that way. So try and paraphrase, and most importantly, put it in language that you can understand. So if you're reading something and it's like, that makes no sense, then kind of find out what it truly means and write it that way, so that when you're going back later, it's in language that you actually understand and you're more likely to, you know, take it in. And also make sure it's in the depth of what's actually needed. So like, if you don't need to go all the way in and know specific details, don't waste your time. Like, don't do that. So just go into the depth that is actually needed. And for some concepts, you may understand it more than others. So your notes for some things may not even need to be that detailed for your notes for other things. So really just know your strengths and weaknesses, I guess. I find that usually what the professor says is more important, usually is more important than what's actually on the PowerPoints. Like, I know for one of my classes last year, like, our professor literally always told us what was gonna be on the exam. She's like, you need to know this for the exam, and it usually ended up being on the exam. So really pay attention to what the professor is adding into those PowerPoints, because that's usually what they really want you to understand and what they might actually test you on. And last but not least, for really good effective notes, you don't need, but I 100% recommend adding diagrams and tables and charts and pictures. Visuals. Visuals are so important. This is coming from the self-proclaimed flowchart queen. Flowcharts literally helped me so much in like my courses like anatomy and physiology and like patho and stuff like that. Like, very highly, like, you need to memorize a lot. Flowcharts and tables and all of that really helped all that information stick in my head. I believe the reasoning for that is because visuals and things, I feel, stick better in your head than like just like blocks of words. So things like visuals and charts and tables really help to cement those concepts into your brain, because I found that my brain actually, like, when I was going to answer a question and I actually pictured, I could see the flow chart in my mind. So I knew like what to do and like what involved what, and like everything just comes together. So use visuals. If you find that you're missing something in your studying regimen, try visuals. They help a lot. And now moving on to probably the most important section of this video is actually effectively studying and retaining all the information that you're studying. So a major tip is organizing what you're studying into concepts. So concept is kind of like grouping like a bunch of like information and like things into one giant kind of topic in a way. So like you'd have your concept, and then you'd have your sub-concepts, and then you'd have that branch off of that. So like everything just kind of all connects into one major thing. And I feel like many university courses or programs are starting to lean more towards concept-based learning, because it just helps you understand and create connections with what you're learning. And the key to effective studying is understanding. You need to actually understand the information that you are, studying. Also, your brain likes to naturally organize information. So by organizing your notes into concepts and things like that, your brain is more likely to take that in and memorize that, which will help later with recall and memorization and understanding. So organizing your notes in the way that your brain likes to take in information and store information, organize it, is what's going to actually help the information stick in your head. This is probably like a major advice, is when you're studying, your aim and your goal should be to understand what you're studying, not just memorize. You need to actually understand what it is that you're reading, not just regurgitate. Because memorization it's important, yes, but I can never say that word. Regurgitating information will only like get you so far in exams. It's a lot of exam questions usually are about application, and the only way to apply knowledge is to actually understand it. So you need to understand what you're reading first so that you can apply it in many different scenarios. Another vital tip is Repetition is key, and I know you guys have heard that one before, but basically taking in shorter pieces of information like repetitively is more effective than taking in like longer pieces of information like only once in a while. And the thing is, your brain can only take in so much information at a time before it just like it's like I'm done. So you need to, the best way is just to, that's why they say like studying a little bit like every day or every few days is more effectively than just cramming, because after a while your brain just, it doesn't care. It's like, okay, I'm done, like shh, be quiet, I'm done. So you actually need to give yourself time to like soak in that information, understand it. So that's why it's best to study a little bit at a time repeatedly than a lot of information at once and only like once. This is for maybe if you're trying to try something new with your studying, try using a whiteboard. So a whiteboard is very helpful with like the repetition point I was talking about. So what I do is like, if I'm reading a section, I read it, write down, like paraphrase it, understand it, erase it, and then write it down again, and just keep doing that until it's finally cemented in my brain. And that, like I'm telling you, makes such a huge difference in the amount of information that you're actually retaining. Like it's so helpful. Also, it saves you the time of like having to rewrite all your notes on like paper and stuff. That you can just, when you're studying, just rewrite it on the whiteboard and then erase it and move on to the next section. And also you can also use it to redraw like your flowcharts when you're studying them. So you know, don't look at your notes and try and redraw the tables or charts or flowcharts that you have in your notes. And again, it's very, very helpful. The next tip is to use your textbook as an accessory for studying. So I know some people say that you should like read the textbook before your lectures and stuff like that. I find like that doesn't really do anything for me, because I feel the best way to use your textbook is to fill in gaps of information. So you use your textbook when you're studying and there's like something that you don't really understand, or like you're not really forming like connections. So you use your textbook to build on knowledge that's already there. So it fills in gaps that you may not understand. And it just saves a lot of time than like spending an hour or two before lecture trying to read the textbook and then you don't even understand what it's saying half of the times. And also the textbook, sometimes it goes too much into detail, like it goes in, and that could just confuse you even more and again waste your time. So yeah, just use the textbook when you don't understand something and you want to like fill in those gaps of knowledge. A very essential tip is to do practice questions. Get your hands on as many practice questions as you can, like as many as you can, because practice questions, especially from your like professor or like from a course, practice questions give you the best idea of what's going to be on your exam or your test or whatever. So it gets you more familiarized with like the concepts, it gets you familiarized with how they're asking the questions, gets you familiarized with like how in depth you have to go with your answers. Because usually when you do practice questions, like it'll give you, like for example, practice questions in your textbook, it'll give you a rationale behind the answer. So make sure you actually understand why something is the right answer. This will properly prepare you for your quizzes or tests or assignments, whatever. Also with practice questions, you get an idea of if your studying has been effective or not. So maybe there's some things that you answer really easily and then there's some things that you're kind of struggling with. So it gives you an idea on if you need to go back and study something more, so that instead of studying everything equally, you can really focus on your time and effort on things that you don't really understand and spend less time on things that you do really understand. And if you're really, really, really lucky, then you might get a few questions on the exam that are either the same or very similar to the practice questions. So do them. So the lighting is starting to go really bad and I'm almost done anyways. So these are the last few tips that I have for you. Use extra resources like Quizlet and like flashcards and stuff like that, especially for things that are like memorization, like quick recall, because those are like perfect for things like that. And last and final tip for you is to teach yourself basically when you're studying. So if you can understand something and teach it back to yourself, that means you understand the concept. So just pretend as if you're trying to explain a concept to someone who has no idea what it is. If you can effectively explain that concept, that means that you understand what you just studied, which is yay, that's awesome, and you can move on. So I really hope these tips kind of helped you guys out and gives you kind of an idea of how to study better. Of course, if you guys have any extra questions or you want more tips, just let me know down in the comment below. Thank you so much if you made it this far into the video, and of course, please don't forget to leave a like and also subscribe if you like what you see, and check out my other videos on my channel. Thank you so much for watching again, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye! Mwah. That was supposed to be a kiss. That was not a kiss. I'm ending it. Bye.